Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as the case may be. We are all joining from different parts of the world for this exciting meeting. This is our 8th or 9th virtual learning hour, so we have a little bit of history behind us. And I think I'm expressing a lot of colleagues' reflection that these are pretty interesting meetings because typically we have interesting guests join, as it is today. And we are going to hear today from the colleague representing Rabo Foundation, and we'll learn all about how foundation is connected to the Rabobank, with whom so many of our colleagues are familiar. And we are also going to hear today from Virginia Brown, our own NCBA colleague, to say a couple more words about their program with Rabobank or Rabo Foundation. I'm not even sure. I would like to while we start, or when we start, to invite everyone to please reflect on any situation in which they may have been working with the Rabo Foundation or Rabobank, so that in our questions and answers and commentary section, we can share some of this experience and reflect on our programs with these organizations. So welcome, everyone. It's great to see you all. And I would like to formally invite our two guests before we go to the actual presentation to tell us a couple of words of introduction about themselves. Virginia and Ligia, how did you get to where you are right now? Ligia Cesar and Virginia Brown, please. Ligia.
Yes, I will start. Good morning and good afternoon to you all. And thank you so much for an invitation, OCDC, for this opportunity to introduce a bit of the work of Rabo Foundation, Rabo Global Fund. My name is Ligia. I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm originally from Brazil, but I've been living in the Netherlands for 13 years now. And well, my background is in economics, and I studied in Europe, and I came to the Netherlands in 2019. While connecting to many different people, I came across the world of impact investing, and was surprised that for such a small country, the Netherlands, there's so many interesting things and so many different organizations doing impact investing all over the world. My first job in the Netherlands was working at Cooperative. Maybe some of you are also familiar with Cooperative. It's also an impact lender. It's also a cooperative as Rabobank. So I worked at Cooperative in different positions and working with microfinance institutions, supporting small businesses. And Rabobank and the work of Rabo Foundation was always something that resonated with me, and the theme of financial inclusion. And with Rabobank, which I started in 2019, I also had the opportunity to combine the theme of financial inclusion, but also tackling other issues, for example, climate change, so topical things that are happening in our society right now. And so in 2019, I joined the team of Rabo Foundation as Program Manager Latin America. And so we're going to talk more about what we do. And so, yeah, very excited to be here. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Virginia, tell us about yourself.
Well, maybe not as exciting as Brazil and the Netherlands, but I'm some of you heard this already. I'm calling in today from Minnesota. I'm at my mom's. Most of my family's in Minnesota, so I'm a half-sea kind of. But I started at NCBA CLUSA almost 9 years ago now. And I knew I just wanted to be in international development. It was a long road to get there. And I started as an executive assistant and grew into programs and everything. And then it landed me into the cooperative development program. And so over the past several years of having the privilege of working on this program and our CDP projects, and just learning more about cooperatives at NCBA CLUSA, and of course what we do, not just internationally, but all the work of the trade association, I'm like full on co-op Kool-Aid. Anything co-ops excites me. And the impact all, cooperatives in all sectors have on the economy here in the US and the world, and what they're doing in communities, not just economically, socially as well. So anything I can do with co-ops, I get excited about. I'm a member of a beer co-op in Ohio, where my husband's family is from. My food co-op in Fredericksburg. I got to hear Paul speak last week about the power of housing cooperatives. So just all different kinds of things. And I just feel so fortunate to be part of this OCDC collaborative group learning community. I've been part of it for a few years now, and it's just a great group, and happy to be here to, learn from everyone. And this is a great series. So thanks.
Thank you. That was great introduction, both of you. And if you feel so inclined, dear colleagues who have joined, please send us a quick message in the chat box. How did your life get you to the point where you are right now? These are fascinating stories, and no matter where you're coming from, it's great to learn a little more about the colleagues that you are working with across the world, really. So moving on, I think we have a good group now of everyone who was planning to join. So we will start the presentations with Ligia, and following that, I suggest that we give the floor to Virginia to also tell us about NCBA's program, and then open the floor to any questions, comments, sharing of experience. Of course, during the presentations, if a question or reflection comes to you, please don't hesitate to use chat. This is great way to kind of at bottom pose the questions and comments. And we have here both Luann and Selandi, who will help me monitor the chat box and bring up all the interesting questions. So Ligia, please, your presentation, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Barbara. Great. Yes. So we can go to the next slide. So, well, my name is Ligia Cesar. As introduced myself in the beginning, I'm working as program manager at Latin America since December 2019. And first I will talk a little bit about Rabo Foundation. We are a foundation based in the Netherlands, and we are independent from Rabobank, but we receive funds from Rabobank's profits to deploy to our projects all over the world. And we have a Dutch focus and an international focus. So in the Netherlands, we support entrepreneurs that have a distance to the labor market. So we have a team specifically working with Dutch projects, but most of our focus is outside of the Netherlands, where we work in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And we have a primary focus to support smallholder farmers. In the next slide, please. The motivation for that is that we know that there are millions of smallholder farmers in these regions that are excluded from financial markets, and they don't have sufficient investments to invest, to make investments on their property, and they have a lack of market access or insufficient knowledge on how to make their businesses successful. So we help them to improve their businesses so that they are able to grow and ultimately to become financially self-reliant. And also there is a preoccupation from the bank that, well, it's a worldwide preoccupation, but specifically because of the bank is focused on food and agri, the demand for food is expected to rise by 60% due to the growth of population. So by 2050, the expectation is that we will demand 6% more food. So that's why the investment in smallholder farmers is really crucial to achieve this growth in food production. Next slide, please. This is our worldwide footprint. So you can see here the countries that we are working on. The commodities also below. So for example, in the region that I work, in Latin America, the most common food crops are cocoa, coffee, and vegetables. But in other regions, we also have fish and milk and grains and honey, and but we also work with spices. So it's very diversified, we also aim to have an increased knowledge in all the food chains, and so where we can make a contribution, we're always open to explore different food value chains. So we're working in 23 countries, so very extensive footprint. Perhaps some of you also have businesses in these countries that we can potentially collaborate as well. The next slide, please. So what do we do with the organizations that we support? We have here 4, let's say, pillars. We provide access to finance. So we offer working capital loans, and we offer technical assistance, long-term loans, also credit guarantees like first loss guarantees, portfolio guarantees. So we have a number of projects to support the businesses. We also provide access to knowledge. So we work with partners on the ground that are technical experts, and they help the organizations on a number of aspects that we can talk about more about this later in the presentation. And then we also provide access to networks. So Rabobank has a really large network. So we connect organizations to financiers, to buyers, to technical experts. So in that way, we believe that we can reinforce the value chain. And we also have a team working on innovation. So working on innovative solutions, for example, agtech, fintech. We also do, for example, digitization projects, farm apps. So this team is not regionally focused, but it works all across the regions, but really specifically focused on innovative solutions. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the work of Rabo Foundation and Rabo Fund, and also to explain a little bit the differences. Rabo Foundation is the older organization, was founded in 1974. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we are funded primarily by Rabobank. A percentage of the bank's profits are deployed to Rabo Foundation, but the employees of Rabobank can also contribute, and high net worth individuals can also make contributions to Rabo Foundation's work. And then we have Rabo Rural Fund, which is a fund that is actually managed by Rabo Foundation. But Rural Fund has, let's say, a lower risk appetite. So with Foundation, we are much more flexible in terms of the types of projects. We are really financing very high risk profile. The Rabo Rural Fund has the similar target group, but more mature organizations within a value chain. So it's also able to provide higher ticket sizes. So as you can see, for example, in this graph, Rabo Foundation would finance the early stage farmer-based organization. So we would consider ourselves more as an incubator. So some of the organizations have never taken credit before, for example, or in this stage of development, financials are very more precarious. When it goes to Rabo Rural Fund, it's a little bit more developed and more mature. And then if we are able to grow these organizations successfully, then it goes to the Rabobank, the big bank, right? So the Rabobank has a very different focus from Rabo Foundation. So Rabobank, as we know, large agribusinesses, wholesale clients, whereas Rabo Foundation, Rabo Rural Fund really focused on smallholder farmers. So if we're look at this chart, and the ideal, more successful client would go through all the stages. Of course, there are organizations that enter direct, have different entry points. So, for example, go directly to Rabo Rural Fund, for example. But what we would like as Rabo Foundation is to really grow an organization to the point that it can have access to Rabobank or other commercial banks. It's very difficult to reach this trajectory. We have not that many successes, as cases of success for various different reasons, but this is our goal, let's say, as an organization. A little bit about the product. So yes, I mentioned we have the Rabo Foundation, Rabo Rural Fund, and Rabo Foundation, going more specifically into the products, we provide loans, grants, and guarantees. And we can do, for example, even local currency loans. The Rabo Rural Fund is only focused on trade finance and loans. So, for example, a typical financing would be to buy and to sell, no? So working capital loan, and it's only hard currency, so US dollars or euros at Rabo Rural Fund. And Rabo Foundation, we have 35 million to 40 million euro, the size of the portfolio. Rabo Rural Fund is a little bit larger, 50 million euros more or less, because it's also able to provide higher ticket sizes. In this slide, we present Rabo Foundation's business framework. We can sort of think of as like a theory of change, where our ultimate objective is that smallholder farmers are self-reliant. And I think that, what is interesting that I wanted to bring to this chart is our strategic pillars. You can see at the bottom, we are focused on reduction of post-harvest losses, reinforcement of the food value chain, and climate-smart agriculture, both short-term to long-term solutions, and we are focused mainly on climate adaptation. So these are the three main strategic pillars that the organization needs to be focused on, either one or a combination of these three, so that we are able to consider as a potential partner. We can go to the next one. So just seeing for the SDGs that we are focused on. These are the 6 SDGs, and we are aiming for a triple bottom approach: the social, economic, and environmental impact. if we achieve these 3 pillars, then we're also contributing for bringing self-reliance to the smallholders. This is our theory of change. So for this slide, a lot of people ask, okay, so what is the criteria? What do we look at when we onboard a client? We don't have a strict criteria, but there are consistently some things that we look at when we are considering onboarding a new client. And a very important aspect for us is the governance. So especially, the governance is really crucial, because we really want to understand who's behind this organization, who's running, what is the mission and the vision, what are the goals to grow that organization. Because we also look at the projects that have failed in the past, for example. A lot of them are not necessarily external factors, but internal factors. So something related to that is in control of the management of that organization. So governance is really, really important. And then we look at our strategic alignment. So if the organization is contributing to the 3 strategic pillars that I've mentioned before. And it has to be connected, of course, with how this organization is working with the smallholders, right? So the connection of strategic pillars with smallholders is also an important criteria. And ultimately, it's always a balance between the risk and the impact. So we can, for example, onboard clients that have a relatively higher risk profile, but if they are proven to have the expectation to have a social and environmental impact is large, then we can also onboard them. So it's also an assessment there. Next slide. So where can we make use of the technical assistance? So we also, as a product, we have technical assistance funds to support the organization, and a number of different things. So we can support with governance. So an example would be capacitation of managers. So for example, rules and rules, cooperative law, for example, how to improve internal controls. It can be anything related to governance. Access to markets, we connect organizations to buyers. So we help them with, for example, shipping samples of their product to buyers, or we support them with going to international fairs, things like that. Post-harvest, so reduction of waste and improving product quality. There's also a topic. So for example, if we're talking about coffee dryers, or improving coffee quality in the lab, So finance, improving accounting and software, internal controls is also one topic. Climate adaptation and productivity, it's also a very important one, where we can provide funds for improved seeds, for example, or organic fertilization. We also make pilots, for example, to improve soil quality, increase the nutrients, and we do pilots on regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, so tree planting, that sort of thing. And innovation, we also have a number of pilots, for example, farmer apps, digitization. So it's very, I can see that it's very broad. There are a number of things that we can do, but the whole point behind us, the technical assistance intervention, is that we want to help them to solve the bottlenecks that hamper them for their further growth. So this is the motivation and logic behind. So on the next slide, please. This is just for for those who are interested, we have an impact team as well that has built this model, it's a potential impact performance model, and where we can, let's say, assess the impact of an organization, also track the impact over time. And then this is based on 3 pillars. So first is strategic alignment, impact essential. So what is the added value of that organization to the smallholders, and the additionality. So what a Rabo Foundation intervention is to that particular organization. So it all comes down to, let's say, a score at the end is where we can compare and assess this organization. And then we can go to one example that I brought about, just a very typical type of deal. So just to be very illustrative, so to see how we work with organizations. So this is an example from Rwanda. We can go to the next slide. Surely is a coffee producer organization, which we helped with working capital loan, technical assistance, and that we worked via Progresso. Progresso is a technical assistance provider that works in many countries, and we are partner of Progresso in Rwanda as well. And we also connect this organization to other buyers. So with this intervention, we had the opportunity for the Surely to scale up, to improve their productivity and sustainability and the business operations, and have a greater access to the global market. So in the next slide, we can see a bit of the results of this intervention. So from a little bit over 10 years of working with the organization, we can see that there has been a large growth of the membership from 30 members to 700 members. The production of coffee also improved and increased quite a lot. The coffee quality also increased. It went from conventional coffee to exporting to specialty markets. And the organization was able to export to a variety of buyers in different continents. So it's actually to the point that we are transferring the organization to Rabo Fund. So that's a successful case from our portfolio. And so with this intervention, the members of Surely were able to improve their income and their productivity. And so it's a successful case, and we're helping them to improve their living conditions. So just one example, we work, of course, with so many organizations, but so this is what I had to say. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to hearing any comments and questions. Thank you.
Virginia, would you like to share your comments? Could we please have Virginia's slide?
Can you all see that okay?
Yes.
Great. So I love the Gia's presentation, because our experience in Peru supporting cooperatives and accessing finance through Rabo Foundation, Gia has touched on so much of what our experience has been. And I just want to say very quickly before I mention a few of these things real quick, that I'm just here, singing the praises of our team in Peru that's done this great work. Oscar, as many of you know, Oscar Inocente, our country representative in Peru. And then also, I'm so excited that Gabriela Vizcarra is on the call, because she's actually championing this financial services work that we're doing, coaching with the cooperatives in Peru. So much of this success is thanks to Gabriela. So I'm really, really happy that she's here. So I'll just go very quickly through some examples of our experience with Rabo Foundation in the Rural Fund in Peru. So as many of you know, the coffee and cacao sector in Peru has been really hard hit from COVID. lots of losses and, not being able to keep up with organic certifications, a host of things. So financing has become just even more critical than it was before even. And so just to mention, what Liz Gio was saying about alignment, I think is so critical, right? Rabo is a cooperative committed to supporting co-ops. That willingness to take on more risk when you can see the potential impact, and having that alignment is key. And then, right, as Ligia mentioned, moving up that scale from, foundation loans maybe to the rural fund, which is for more mature cooperatives. Because there are some cooperatives we work with that have those bigger needs, right? And so much of the time, other financing institutions are not able to provide those kinds of loans. So we've found that to be just really critical in the partnership with Rabo Foundation. And then also, as I mentioned, having, these dedicated financial advisory services, working with the cooperatives on their applications has been really critical. And Gabriela has done so much of that in Peru. And some of those other factors, in addition to what Ligia said about, the governance and everything, Oscar and I were also talking about, in those applications, doing that deep dive, like having the data to back up your projections for collection and production, your sales projections, your membership base, your buyers, your other partners, the amount of hectares that your members have collectively, any investments you're making in field operations. Like, there's so much that goes into these loan applications. And that's, most cooperatives don't, they don't have that kind of advisory support, or maybe, have that, those skill sets on staff potentially. And then one of the other things we were talking about too was, not just having that, the solid accounting, financial management, but also it's really key to have a general manager who understands finance as well, to couple that with, the financial team, because that manager that has more of that vision for the cooperative and everything else going on in the sector, coupled with that strong financial management and accounting is really critical as well. And so just to give a quick snapshot of what we've done in Peru. So in FY21, we helped 2 cooperatives access almost 400,000 in loans from Rabo Foundation. And then for this year, that partnership was going well, and we helped even more cooperatives access more funding this year, 650,000 in loans, and 1 million from the rural fund that Ligia was talking about. One of the cooperatives we partner with, Selva Andina, they started out like that chart Ligia was showing. They got, some smaller loans through the Rabo Foundation first, and we're paying that back. Things were going really well, and that, was a very successful partnership, and so could move on to that middle stage of accessing a larger loan through the rural fund. And so that's what they're working with right now. And then we also helped one of the cooperatives that's part of our coaching program access a donation to support organic production improvements. So we're really happy with this partnership. It's been going really well, and it's only, continuing to expand. And so on the horizon, we're really excited about continuing our work with Rabo Foundation on our new USDA Peru Spices project. It focuses on the spices sector in Peru, and specifically ginger, turmeric, and oregano. And so we've already been discussing with Rabo Foundation, you know, because I think my understanding is Rabo Foundation hasn't worked in the sector in Peru previously. So we'll be working together on product development specifically for ginger and turmeric. And so that's really exciting. And I think it just goes to show this, you know, this alignment of values and commitment in our organizations is really taking things in a great direction. So we're excited to see how that progresses. The project, the USDA project, is literally just starting up. We're doing like our baseline and everything. So it'll be a while before we can really dig into those activities. But I think, you know, a lot of the visioning and things that's happening already. But yeah, so that's been our experience in Peru on our CDP project, and now into the USDA project as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both Ligia and Virginia. I want to open up the floor for questions or comments. Or as I say, it would be great to hear from all and about your experience. From my side, a request and a question about the mechanics that relates to starting a relationship with Rabobank, especially in the countries where there is no current presence for your foundation. How does someone who is interested approaches? Who does he approach? Where? And if you can share a little more about this side of activity.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so although we're based in the Netherlands, we have a whole team on the ground. So we work with, it's a combination of part-time, full-time consultants that work in our focus countries. And we also have specific teams that are under Rabo Foundation in Kenya and in India. So these are already groups that are employed by Rabo Foundation. Otherwise, we work with consultants. So we have quite a number of local staff. So the clients or the potential opportunities, they come from various ways. So it can come from the Rabo network directly to us, or it can come from the clients to the consultants on the ground, and a lot of mouth to mouth as well, because in the countries that we work there, you know, also the name of Rabo Foundation is sort of well known in this sector. So then it's also how the work of the foundation goes from organization to organization, and they reach out to us. So it can come with various ways. The only thing is that we cannot pursue projects that are outside of the focus countries. So we really, unfortunately, only the countries that we have established within our strategy that are eligible, let's say, to receive Rabo Foundation, Rabo Rural Fund funds. Yeah.
Thank you. Please don't be shy. It's a great opportunity. Raise your hand or shout out any questions and further comments.
Jose Diaz has some great questions for Ligia in the chat, by the way.
Yeah.
Could you please share?
I think the first question from Jose, I don't know if you want to come off mute, but what are the characteristics of a high-risk profile?
Yes. Yeah, good question. I think what we mean high-risk profile, we either something that we think there's a large chance that the project will fail. It can also be from a, let's say, a financial perspective, the organization. There are some organizations that are too small to even take a loan, a small loan from Rabo Foundation, because we also we prefer to work with organizations that are able to take at least, let's say, $100,000 loan size, because otherwise, in order to bring that organization to where we want to go, then if we work with very, very small organizations, sometimes it's very difficult to realize that. So we need to have, let's say, a minimum baseline, but it can also be something that we see within the organization. They don't have, there are things that we are not able, even with our technical assistance, not able to I would not say to work with. No, so something within the organization, something. Sometimes it's not a sector that we are not so familiar with. It can also be that. So there are some challenges along the way that we think, okay, maybe. And that at the same time, there are also so many organizations that want to work with Rabo Foundation that at this certain point we need to make a selection, and sometimes we even have to leave out good options because there is also a lot of demand that we are not able to fulfill within a year. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And the second one. Yes. Well, in the context, so as I mentioned, we have a specific team at Rabo Foundation that work on specifically innovation. So we work with organizations that develop like farmer apps, for example, for farmer-based organizations. We work with digitization, also digitalization. So a number of solutions, so AgTech as well, or organizations that do credit scoring. In Latin America, the region that I work with, this we have, it's a little bit more limited, the innovations projects, but in other regions, Africa and Asia, there the team has been exploring much more opportunities. We are trying to do something in Peru and in Brazil, but yeah, for lack of capacity right now in the team, we have not found a successful project yet beyond, let's say, the Baco platform, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, which is a platform that is managed by Progresso, and then where we connect coffee buyers with coffee organizations. So it's kind of a commercial platform. The gender element is not something that is specified in our strategy, although when we work with farmer-based organizations, we always are we want to also encourage and to empower the promotion of women producers as well. And we have also a number of organizations that have a specific line of, for example, the product for that are produced by women, but we don't have yet, let's say, a gender lens at Rabo Foundation. But it's something that has been up and coming. We have to let's say define our priorities, and I think the management and they prioritized let's say climate and when we onboard clients. So climate mitigation, climate adaptation is some of the things that we are focusing much more and more is more let's say detailed in our strategy as opposed to gender.
There is also a question about any special period for applications.
No, we're welcoming applications the whole year round. Of course, there, depending on the product, there are specific harvest periods. So we're always closing and entering harvests, right? So, but I would say that the application process from onboarding to collecting all documentation, analysis, and sending for submission, it takes about 3 months.
3 months. That's not a very long time, given the depth of your insight into the organization that you may not know. That's pretty intense period, I would guess.
Yeah, actually, we have a relatively lean approval process, and depending also on the amounts, it can also take faster tracks. So it, depending. So for example, if it's until 300,000, we can approve within the team. Beyond that, we have to go to a special committee. So and also contracting and disbursement happens pretty quickly, and we have to be fast because we're working with the food and agribusiness, and timely disbursements are really crucial. So if we miss sometimes 1 month, we miss also, it can, depending on the crop, a full year. So if we really want to serve the clients on time, we have to be fast. But we always try to be transparent and say, okay, we cannot onboard you this year, but next year. So depending on the workload. So yeah, this is usually how it goes.
Very good. There is a question from Dahlia. Could you give more examples of environmental, climate-focused activities that you have financed successfully?
Yes, of course. I would say, so for example, we are working on different pilots in different countries with regenerative agriculture. And so these are more, let's say, long-term climate solutions where agroforestry, I'm not sure if the term is familiar to everyone, but basically that's sort of the opposite of monoculture. So we're trying to, within a property, within the land, we make, let's say, an agroforestry design in order to intercrop plants with other types of crops in order to build the nutrients in the soil, make the soil more resilient to climate change. And there's some organizations that we're working that are environmental experts. So we provide, let's say, funds to kickstart an agroforestry design, or to give the tools for farmers to invest on agroforestry in the hopes that it can scale up the production and improve productivity. We're also working, for example, we're just finalizing a deal in Brazil right now, where we're working with a startup that is producing organic eggs, and the input for production of organic eggs is organic grains, and is an organization that is working with a lot of smallholders that are sitting on degraded land. So what we're doing is that we're giving a long-term loan to convert this land from degraded to non-degraded. So it's also, these projects usually are more long-term because it takes time for the soil to be corrected and for the soil to grow that specific crop. So as Rabo Foundation, we also have this flexibility of long-term loans. In that case, for example, we have grace periods. Some things we can finance, and with a loan, other things we use technical assistance or even small donations. So these are some of the examples that we've been working with.
Fantastic. I have a question. Yes, please. Go ahead.
To the environment and climate stuff. I know we've mentioned before, maybe in other learning events or just other forum, the ACORN Carbon
Of
credit.
course,
I'm wondering if
Acorn.
Rabo Foundation provides any technical assistance related to that initiative, or
Yeah, no, really
what that
good point,
connection is.
Virginia. Yeah, Acorn is a very new initiative also within Rabobank, but it's growing really fast. I think right now they also have a team of 60 people already. And they really have a goal to make sure that lots of groups of smallholders are doing more agroforestry. And actually, right now we are going to, the Rabobank is working to start a Rabo Foundation fund specifically for Acorn. Yes, it hasn't been officially announced yet, but so the idea is that Rabo Foundation will support the Acorn project, because in the starting up phase, it really requires a lot of funds to for the agroforestry design, and to make sure that the farmers have the investments to do that. So and yeah, it's a very exciting new initiative. And also just to mention that the projects that we have on climate are mainly focused on climate adaptation. So there's a lot of organizations and initiatives focusing on resilience, on reduction of greenhouse emissions, but not that many on climate adaptation, because we are actually facing already the problem of climate change. So the farmers, the logic behind the farmers need to adapt right now. So we when we look at proposals that relate to climate, we really focus what is how adapted the farmer will be with this initiative. So this is an important element in consideration as well.
Great, great. Have I missed any question? Please, we have 5 more minutes, or only 5 minutes left in our program before we close. So I want to give the opportunity. Is the Graciela still with us? I don't see her. You mentioned Virginia. I think she was
Dropped off at some point, so
yeah.
I don't know if she heard me glowing about her or not.
That's right. That's right. That would have been an additional comment.
I think every question I have had, like Lygia has already like naturally like responded. So like she's reading my mind, and all the questions that I think everyone were kind of in the same boat. A lot of the questions that were ones I had already, so I don't have anything else new to ask. But this is
well. So in this in your presentation, when you said that the applications, that organization is open to different applications all year round, and there are those 2 regional expert offices in Kenya and in India, could you share contact information for these expert organizations, or indeed how to get in touch for the colleagues, either from the countries where you currently are working, or from the outside? That I think would be helpful. Of course, I will share the presentations from today, and we'll send it to all colleagues who may not have had a chance to join. So adding those contact information pieces would be probably helpful.
And Barbara, let's make sure we share too with, I know Emily's off right now, but Emily and Christina as well. Emily's mentioned to me before, just really excited about the partnership with Rabo Foundation, knowing its cooperative roots and everything. So I know she was particularly interested in
Sure.
Learning more. Yeah.
Sure. We'll do that. So listen, everyone, I think we are coming to the point where we have to just thank our presenters and all our colleagues who joined, and wish you a great remainder of the day. our next meeting, I don't think we will have a meeting in December because other planned activities, and we may meet some of you in the course of those, but our next meeting will probably be in February. So sometime in the middle of January, I'll send you either say the day or registration, just like we did this time around. It's going to be another exciting meeting. I hope for some focus, slightly switching to activities that were research activities and had some interesting findings that are worth sharing. So this is ahead of us. And so with that, I want to thank everyone and say goodbye and look for a presentation sent in email. Thank you, everybody, and see you all soon.